All right, Aaliyah, let's take a look at your paper. MLA citation first. You need in the top right-hand corner in the header your last name and then followed by the page number. So you're missing that. Everything here looks okay. You have a space right here, though. You're going to want to eliminate that space right there. Bones, Bones, Bones is your title for this particular piece. Knowing what the thing is about, it's probably not a bad title, but certainly we're going to maybe take and see if we can expand it and make it better. All right, so we start off with a bunch of statistics, which these are actually fascinating statistics, so I think they're really good. Wording-wise, I would just maybe change this to May 1, 2012 to April 30, 2013, something like that. It's kind of stilted to say from May 1st in 2012 to this into, it seems kind of stilted, so I would maybe reword that. But you have the basic premise of the introduction pretty laid out. You have a attention getter that you expand on quite a bit. You eventually get to the topic. What happens to people when they fracture something? I would love to have this more as a statement rather than a question, because when you introduce a topic, you want a pretty strong statement to introduce your topic. Then you go through the main points in a sentence each, which is good. The thesis, I'm not totally sold on right now. I think it needs some work because really the struggle, I think, is probably a legitimate way to tie all your paragraphs to end. The struggle with the pain, the struggle with the inability to do things, the struggle with the emotional consequences. I think that's legitimate. I just don't think it's at the forefront of this thesis. So I think you're really going to want to change that a little bit and make it more prevalent in your paper, in your thesis, excuse me. But other than that, the basic structure of the introduction is pretty good, and it's actually pretty long. Believe me, you wrote longer introductions than a lot of my seniors did, so congrats. All right, I'm not sure I really get this first sentence of the piece, because it talks about how the injury was caused, but really this is just about the physical pain that comes from it. People, you don't usually think about what kind of physical pain the fracture is putting someone in. I actually would tend to disagree. I feel like people usually are trying to figure out what kind of physical pain people are in. So I thought that was kind of intriguing. Anyways, a couple things. Number one, you're finally bringing in the first person point of view, which I am shocked that you didn't bring up first person point of view right here. You have personal experience with this, and it might make a lot of sense in your introduction to go back and really say, someone can break a bone the simplest ways, blah, blah, blah. I broke a bone when I was so ever years old doing this, and so I have personal experience with this kind of thing. And then you can go down to here. Now it says, I can inform you. Remember, you cannot use the word you in here. I can inform, I can tell you, my experience breaking my bone was this, whatever it has to be, I don't know. But you can't use you. But this is the only time you actually bring it up. I don't know what you broke, and you say, this is what it feels like, but there's no, I guess down here, by the way, this is a really good sentence. Being shot by a machine gun rapidly and continuously. That's a great detailed sentence, and things like that are what you want to keep in here. But it's things like this. Say an arm is broken. Don't say that. Just go back to your personal experience and talk about it. That's what I want to see more of from you, especially since you do have a personal experience with it. The grammar in this paragraph is good. I don't see any big mistakes in here. It seems like you're doing really well, and you also have a really good transitional statement. So good job with that. That's a really good skill to have at this point in your life. So keep that up. Again, Aaliyah, I want to see your own personal experiences with this paragraph, especially the kind of things that were going through your heads. You say things go through their heads. They have a million thoughts continuously run through your mind. But what was running through your mind? Since at some point, hopefully the introduction already gave us some backdrop to the injury. What was running through your mind? What was something that you had to deal with? You give a lot of examples. I mean, that's legitimate that you're doing that. But when you have your own personal experience with this, you need to bring that into the writing. Not being able to give me an example of what you couldn't do when you're on there. Give me an example of what it was like to watch people do things that you wanted to be out there doing. This part, I get where you're going with it, but it leaves a little bit desired. There's a huge goal in life, a passion that's looked forward to. That's kind of meaningless to me. One day an accident happens, at least I'm gradually getting worse at doing whatever their dream is. Well, I don't know if you're getting worse, but you're just stagnant. You're the same. Now, maybe if you talked about trying to come back from an injury, maybe that would make sense, but you don't really get into that. But that's emotional. I mean, that's something that they have to deal with. I guess emotional stuff is the next one, but that's certainly something they have to deal with in that paragraph. So you might be able to, talk about that coming back from them. I mean, you say, what are the big things? These seem like big things right here. Hard time taking a shower. That seems like a pretty big thing to me. So maybe you don't define those as big things, because really watching someone at practice while I can't practice, yes, that sucks, but I would think these things up here are much worse than this. But that's just how you got to frame your paragraph and what you want to get across. You're missing a transition. Well, let me go back and look at this. Oh, let me look at this real quick. Life is hard. That's a poor word choice. You want to make a really strong word choice there at the end, especially at the end of a sentence. You want to make that strong. All right, it makes a person with injury have a million thoughts continually run through his or her mind. I guess that is you leading into the whole emotional part to it. I bet it could be a little bit more specific though, so maybe work on that transition later. All right, so this is your longest paragraph, and it's probably your best as far as mixing facts in with feelings and with, you try. I mean, there's not a whole lot of personal experience other than say that you've been there. All right, this is a throwaway line, by the way. Emotional pain is internal, not external. I understand that. Now, if you made a point about it, the idea that most people can't see it, and that's part of it, which you kind of dance around a little bit in here, but that just seems like a throwaway line. Okay, let's look at this word. When something is broken, the person experiencing can have feelings of worthlessness and idiocracy. Now, idiocracy, to define it, talks about specifically a government run by fools. I get what you're trying to say, that you basically feel like an idiot, but I don't think that's really the word choice that you want to go with. Worthlessness is good. I mean, it's a great word, but I don't think it's really the place for it. So you might want to look at that. You give some examples, writing their name, pulling up their ponytail. This is a great line, and I really like that. You're kind of getting into the no one has to, which you're alluding to up here, but you could do a little bit better at that. Then you get into this. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier. This looks like probably something you got offline, and I see that you have a works cited page that I need to look at. This information needs an in-text citation. So you're going to lose some points on MLA because you need to have an in-text citation. So you need to tell me where you got that from, and we can go over that again in class if you need to. But you need to cite where you got this from. Now, the effects of a bone breaking can do so much to a person. A simple bone break doesn't have simple consequences. This is a great line. This is kind of a throwaway line. You need to either extend this sentence and make it a little bit more punchy, or maybe combine these two sentences together. I think that might not be a bad idea. You also have a wrong word in here. Let me find it for you. Right here, I think you meant to say they start to despise people, or the idea or the feelings of despise. I don't know. It's worded poorly there. You're missing something in here, so you might want to rewrite that sentence. I know what you want to do, but it's just not being done there, so make sure you fix that. All right, with a conclusion, start with a restatement of the thesis statement, which is kind of this, but not really. We talked about maybe reworking your thesis statement anyway. Don't start with these questions. These are, again, throwaway questions. You've already pretty much covered this already. Then you take a sentence to summarize each body paragraph, which you do. Little comma error here, accomplished. Remember, you have two complete sentences separated by a conjunction. You need a comma there. We just learned that rule. So make sure you put a comma in there. Whenever you have end punctuation here, make sure you put it inside the quote too. All right, when someone has a broken bone, is everything that is going on in their lives seen? Again, I know you keep harping on that people don't know the pain you've gone through, and I think this statement would be so much stronger if you had more of your voice in it. So aailyah, don't be afraid to add more of your story in there. Don't be quick to judge the book, but take time to read the entire story of the battle that was fought among opposite sides. And it's okay. What I would do is I'd go back to your statistics at the beginning. Go back to all of those things and talk about, the statistics, and that, the likelihood of you breaking a bone is pretty high. But just know that, the sympathy you may or may not feel could come back to harm you later. Okay. All right. Number 1, this is not a bibliography. It's called a works cited page, and it needs to state that in the middle of the page. So this is right. You would actually get rid of this. You don't need to put the address in for a works cited page, so you'd move that up. This, I'm not exactly sure what this is. I don't know what the title of this web page is. So you want to make sure that you have a title here. I would really castcovers.com. I would really question that source. This one is probably not quite better, but at least it sounds a little better. But if this is a second source, this is really not done right. So really clean up your works cited page a little bit more. And again, go back and look at that sheet I gave you. Make sure you're on the right track with that. But I'd like to help you with the rewrite if I can. Thanks, aailyah. Hopefully we'll see a rewrite out of you.